I will say this, you don't realize how good a W, just one little W can feel until you go through a stretch that you feel like you cannot possibly get a W. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. And the Mariners win. They defeat the Angels 3-2. They improved to 33-31 on the season. I think they're 2 back of Houston in the division, maybe a game back in the wild card somewhere in that range. Before I go any further, as always, it's been a tough stretch, but if you guys can hit that like button, subscribe if you're new or lurking, still trying to get to 5,000, and don't forget to comment your thoughts on the team and on the game down below. I use this quote 20 times a year, but in the words of the great Kevin Malone, sometimes it's just nice to win one. Mariners get a W. It does not undo all of your and my frustrations from the past week. It doesn't make those invalid or wrong. Those were absolutely legit frustrations, but they get back on the winning side, and hopefully it's the start of a turnaround in the positive direction, and it's nice to see him win. Listen, you can't get back going until you win one. I don't get too excited until you start stringing some wins together or find a way to win 5 out of 6 or 2 or 3 in a row. Win tomorrow and I'll perk up a little bit more. But they got it done today. And George Kirby was amazing. If he didn't give up that home run to Taylor Ward, we might be talking like a top 10 start of all time in Seattle Mariners starting pitcher history. 14 strikeouts. Or was it 15? I think it was 14. Let me just double check here. 14 strikeouts over 7 innings. No walks. Just a masterclass from George Kirby. The slider looked good. Just painting the fastball on the corners and getting the swing and miss to go along with it. Just a phenomenal performance. That now makes 2 starts in a row. Well, I don't want to compare this start to last one. This one was fantastic. The last one was nice, better. But that's not 2 starts in a row where George Kirby has looked more like George Kirby. And that's going to go a long way for this team if they can hang around and get a contention. Sounds like Logan Gilbert's close as well. So starting staff starting to get back in line a little bit. Woo's pitching great. Castillo, despite yesterday's, pitching great. Miller's struggling, but you do have Hancock pitching well. So starting to round into form a little bit. It's been frustrating. They haven't been great by any means. And I thought Aaron Goldsmith made a great point in the broadcast. The Mariners don't really have an identity right now. As frustrating as last year was, we kind of knew what the team was. This year, we're still trying to figure it out because while the starting pitching, I think, has gotten better here recently, it hasn't been fantastic, especially this series. Truthfully, outside of Kirby, it was poor. They looked like, the 27 Yankees in April, but the offense has cooled down. We know the back end of the bullpen is good, but I wouldn't call them like a dominant bullpen team. I'd say their back end is fantastic with some questions in the middle. So, we're really not sure what they are yet, but with getting Kirby back to looking like Kirby and Gilbert on the mend and Woo, like I talked about, Castillo, maybe they will start to get a little bit of this identity here. Offense was still frustrating at times. They did collect 11 hits. They put the runners on. This is one of those games where, you talk about just needing that one big hit. Again, I've talked about a lot this year and last year. Who's going to put one into the gap? Who's going to be the guy to deliver the big double to bring in 2 runs? They did not get that hit today. They had some good performances. Randy was fantastic. And hey, they got Cal Raleigh an entire day off. That's a beautiful thing in and of itself that Cal gets a full rest day before Monday. Sorry, had to pause the video there for a second. But yeah, they get Cal a full day off. And like I said, there were some decent individual performances, but just didn't quite get the big hit. But I would rather see the team put the base runners on and fail to get them home than even get the base runners. So maybe an encouraging sign for the offense heading to Arizona that they can, you can at least look at a game like this from the offense and go, hey, if Garver gets a sac fly in that at-bat in the 3rd or 4th and Demo gets one there, you might score 5 runs in this game. They, Cole Young with the bases loaded finds a gap. And, this is all stuff that didn't happen. So I can't sit there and go, oh, see, look how close they were. But at least you were in position to do it. And truthfully, the offense wasn't terrible this series by any means. This series loss overall probably does fall more on the pitching. Bryce was not sharp on Friday. Did see some signs of encouragement. Again, just looking for silver linings. And then Castillo and the defense were not great yesterday, and the bullpen couldn't keep the Angels off the board. Mariners scored 6 runs yesterday. I think they scored 4 on Friday. Not amazing, but this wasn't an atrocious offensive series by any means. It wasn't their best, but they did score 13 runs over 3 games. And when the pitching gets dialed in, that would, I think normally for what we expect from the Mariners pitching staff, we would think that could lead to, at least a series win for them going forward. So, and then the bullpen locks it down today too. Matt Brash was outstanding, and Munoz, despite the walk to Jorge Soler, and we all thought, here we go. The Angels are winning this. There's no way that Neto or Trout isn't putting one in the seats to give the Angels a victory today, especially, again, that place has been a house of horrors for the Mariners. They've lost, they haven't lost 7 in a row. They lost 7 out of 8, I think, in Anaheim coming into today. And those 7 losses were by a combined 8 runs. This has just been, it's not even so much a house of horrors. It's just been a house of can't win the coin flip games in Anaheim for the Mariners. But coin flip game today, and they do find a way, to get it done. Like I said, and Munoz ends up locking it down the ninth. Was a little nervous because Brash hasn't pitched since, I think he pitched once in the Baltimore series. Munoz hadn't pitched since last Sunday. And I get that. That's a tough spot as a manager because you'd like to get the guys to work. I think no matter what, Munoz was pitching that 9th inning, even had the Angels scored 2 runs in the 8th. Well, sorry, the Angels scored 2 runs in the 8th. There wouldn't have been a reason. There wouldn't have been a 9th inning, but you know what I'm getting. I think Munoz was going to pitch today regardless. Probably would have been wise for Dan to find a spot for him somewhere in the Baltimore series or pitch the 9th on Friday. But then it's tough because if he throws 25 pitches in an inning, Munoz is down the next day possibly. So I don't envy those decisions for managers. I think those are always tough. You don't like guys going a whole week without getting in a game because Munoz came out, was a little rusty in the 9th with the walk to Soler. Now, corrected it and everything, but and no harm, no foul. But you like to get guys at least a little bit of work there. But like I said, that's tough to determine when they get the work. But, are arguing things that are just what I'm with myself, that just don't, really, that they matter. But at the end of the day, the Mariners won the game. So hopefully this starts a little something. Now they go to Arizona. Arizona's scuffling. They were swept in Cincinnati. They had to play essentially 1.5 games yesterday because Friday's game got delayed. So they finished it up Saturday, then played a full game Saturday and got beat today. So they're coming home, in a little bit of a tough stretch, as are the Mariners still, but you at least get a little momentum from today's W. So Emerson Hancock's been throwing the ball well. You feel good with him going. Brian Wu on Tuesday. Feel good about that. And, maybe Bryce finds something for Wednesday and you can go into Arizona, maybe win 2 out of 3, salvage this road trip a little bit and get the vibes back. And the Mariners don't fall below 500, which feels, like a nice thing too. Because you get back to 500, you feel like it's all undone. Not that 33 and 31 is where I wanted them to be after being, I think, as high as 8 games over 500, just a week and a half ago. But it's certainly at least like, I think the simplest way to say this feels better than a loss. What, Jay, like, of course, but it just feels nice to get the W. And like I said to start the video, if you're still sitting there going, yeah, Jay, whatever, they want a game. Yeah, of course. I'm still with you. This isn't, Mariners are fine. What were we even stressing about? Like, they were playing some dreadful baseball. There were still some things today, even outside of Kirby's dominant performance, but they at least got on the right side of it. And hopefully, this is a little bit of momentum built up for them. Let's get into the box score. George Kirby, 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, no walks, 14 Ks. Funny, you look at that box score from Kirby. You know what's amazing? He threw 6 2/3 perfect innings of baseball. 6 2/3. Because the Trout hit happened with 2 outs in the 4th, and then Ward homered. Those are the only 2 hits that George Kirby gave up all day with 2 outs in the 4th inning. That's incredible. No walks, 14 Ks. I mean, just a masterclass performance from George Kirby. Absolutely needed it. And confident now that George Kirby is back. Brash with a shutout inning and 2 strikeouts for the hold. Munoz a shutout, 9th inning, a walk and 2 strikeouts to strikes out Trout to end it. Save number 18 for Munoz. Offensively, the Mariners do collect 11 hits, only 1 walk, and that was the first batter of the game, J.P. Crawford. today was really a case of just not coming through with runners on base for most of this game. There was opportunities to make it 5 and 6 runs in this one, and open this up a little bit. So this wasn't so much as a awful performance as it was a frustrating performance is how I'd categorize this one more. JP was 0 for 4 at the walk. Julio, good to see him back in the lineup after yesterday. I was very concerned that he wasn't putting a lot of weight on that ankle there, that he might miss some time. He is 0 for 5 today. Does score a run on the Randy double in the first, but good to have him back out there. And even if he doesn't get a hit, he didn't drop any fly balls like Tavares did yesterday, essentially. So that alone gives you a boost out there. Randy Arozarena, 3 for 5, an RBI, 2 doubles, a single. Obviously, not everybody here is channel members. You should be if you want to. But in the stream on Friday, I said in there, and the members can attest this, that Randy's the guy. Randy's the guy I'm pointing to that needs to get going. Julio, too, a little bit, right? But I do think this has been a better start to the year than we've seen from Julio in the past. I'd like to see better offense, 100% from Julio. But Randy is the guy to me in the last few weeks has just disappeared. Where has he been? Friday, he collects a couple walks, left some runners on there. Not a great game. Gets on base twice. I didn't even get into the box score yesterday because it was so frustrating, but Randy had 3 hits, and he has 3 hits today. Randy had a really solid series. And that single missed a home run by this much. Now, I didn't see, was he not hustling out of the box there to make it a double? That did kind of feel like one of those cursed at bats for the Mariners where you're like, even, a ball misses a home run by an inch and it's a single instead of, even a double. But that might have been Randy not busting out of the box. I don't know. I didn't see. It is kind of funny. Baseball still remains a sport with such a small margin of error. You wonder if Rowdy's fly ball gets out yesterday or Friday. You wonder if that Randy base hit doesn't hit Julio and gets through. You do wonder what could have happened potentially in this series this weekend. But if what's and ifs and buts, candies, nuts, all that stuff, whatever. So it didn't happen. And you could look at it both ways. The Mariners have won games. If Shanuel's line drive in the ninth wasn't caught, who knows? So, but anyways, so nice game for Randy. Nice series. So hopefully he keeps it up because a Randy hot streak would be huge. Luke Raley's, closer to getting back. He hasn't started his rehab assignment yet. But, need some of those other guys. Just need anybody besides Cal and JP to an extent to really get going. But Randy's a guy I'd kind of point to that I just can be better. He can be better than he's been and had a nice series here. So nice game for Randy. Garver was 1 for 5. I mean, he did have the first hit with runners in scoring position today, but man, that at bat in I think it was the third when they had second and third and nobody out was just so awful. And Garver, who's really hasn't chased a lot this year, if anything, you could make a case Garver's been way too passive at the plate this season, right? Like he's just let pitches go by. They're like, dude, you got to swing at that. All of a sudden he gets super aggressive and is swinging at the changeup from Anderson out of the zone, and just whiffing at things. And like I say, he does get the base hit that moves Randy to third, which to help, get the big inning going, the inning where the Mariners scored 2 runs and won the game. That's nice. But yeah, just still, not overly, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Garver hasn't been good, right? I don't know why I'm searching for some magic word there. Listen, I don't have a problem with him. And also Garver batting fourth. I mean, again, no problem. You got to give Cal a day off, right? Like no problem with that. It's only the second lineup that Cal has not been penciled into all year. First game where he has not played at all season and actually got a full day off. And it looked like, with him in the jacket there, I think they were giving him a day off no matter what today. And I'm actually okay with that. I wouldn't have been against Cal batting in the ninth inning there for Masterboni and putting Tavares in right. But anyways, so like I get Garver has to play as long as he's on the roster, right? As long as he's here, he's got to play sometimes. But man, batting fourth, and I know he should be better against lefties. I know Polanco we've talked about moving Polanco down, and he hasn't swung the bat righty a ton. Dylan Moore's not exactly crushing it right now. What do you do? Bat Ben Williamson fourth. So I'm not going to rip Dan too much for it because I think if you take a step back and look through the roster and the lineup today, you'd go, I mean, I don't know what else you really do. in that spot. I mean, maybe you do go with like a Ben Williamson, better contact or something. I don't know. Um, but yeah, like you can't be having Mitch Garver bat fourth. And that to me is more of a roster construction issue than it is a Dan issue because I don't know, where else do you put him today? I mean, you're going to move Solano up to fourth, but long rant. I get why Garver has to play. I am done. I just, I keep thinking, I keep going into games with Garver in there and Solano too. And Solano actually had a decent game today. We'll talk about him in a minute. I expect Garver to homer just because it can't be this bad all season. Eventually, he's got to do something. It's more of like I predict success based on just these laws of averages for him, and it just doesn't happen. But then he gets like just that one hit where you go, oh, okay, it was a clutch hit that they needed. But anyways, moving on. I will say this. I think Garver's done a real nice job behind the plate. And I actually think that's why I talked about this in a previous video, but I actually think that's why he's still here is he has done a good job at the pitching staff. I think his framing has looked better. I don't have all the data. There are people that can analyze that way better than I can that are in this Mariners community. But he had a great block on that almost wild pitch by Munoz in the ninth. He framed a couple pitches for Kirby. I thought did a great job on him. I think he's done decent throwing the ball and worked well with the staff. And I think that's why he's still here. I really do. And I think that's probably their concern that Harry Ford might struggle in that aspect. And then you got to find him DH at bats as well because you don't want Ford just playing once a week. And I get there's just not a lot of great backup catchers sitting there on the market that you can go get. Garver's probably here till the trade deadline. Then maybe, you can find someone, or maybe you just, you feel confident Harry Ford can DH and catch a little bit and you can go with that. That would just be my prediction. And in terms of what I would do with it, I don't know. I really don't. I certainly would love to just stand here like, oh, I'd get his butt off the team. But it's not just that easy in certain situations either, right? Like you bring up Harry Ford and, if he's struggling catching and working with the pitching staff, that becomes an issue, excuse me, as well. But you'd like to have his bat. So who knows? Let's move on. It's enough Garver talk. Dylan Moore, 0 for 3. Demo is really struggling. And that strikeout he had in the position with the runners in scoring position there. First one, he grounded out on, and Julio's just got to either come home or stay. Like even Angie said in the broadcast, I get he was probably dead to rights either way, but at least try to get in the rundown. He goes back, but Dylan doesn't produce in that at bat. Then later in the game, he strikes out 90 right down the middle against Anderson. Can't happen. Demo does this, right, where he has weeks where you go, dude, how is this guy not an everyday player somewhere? Like this guy's going to the All-Star game. And then you go, oh yeah, because he has a 3-4 week stretch where I don't even know what a Dylan Moore hit looks like. I can't even envision it right now. Like, how does this guy do anything successful? And it's kind of another microcosm of the Mariners at times too, right? Where they can look like a team that you would put up against anybody. And then there's games where like, I wouldn't trust this team to play the Rockies right now. So yeah, Dylan's got to get going because they need this lineup needs to be better against left-handed pitching. Mastroboni pinched hit was 1 for 2. Nice catch there in the ninth inning. Sorry, another pause in the video for a coughing fit. I guess I haven't talked this much about the Mariners. It's been more frustration, so my body's reacting to actually talking about the team. Nice catch by Mastroboni there in the ninth. I will say every time he catches a fly ball, it reminds me of the kid in Little League that would catch it, but is always like doing this, like, oh my gosh, just please catch it. Always seems to be Mastroboni's reactions out there, but continues to do his job at the plate. OPS is 633 isn't amazing, but for the role he should be in, he's doing absolutely fine for you. Polanco 2 for 4 with an RBI single. One better series for Polanco. Even going back to Baltimore, he had that double in the last game. I think he had a couple hits, 3 to 5 hits in this series, elevating the ball a little bit better. Got a couple hits right-handed. I think those are his first 2 of the season right-handed. So maybe Polanco coming back into the fold a little bit and is going to be able to produce for you a bit here. That would be huge. Don't have to have April Polanco, but just can't have May Polanco either for the rest of the season. And pause number 3, thanks to the dogs. Okay, so yeah, hopefully Polanco starting to turn around a little bit. Looks better at the plate. Donovan Solano, 1 for 2 with an RBI single and was hit by a pitch. Solano on base 2 times, clutch base hit. Technically the game-winning hit from Solano. So I will say he has been better, right? Like he's not good. His OPS 421. He's been atrocious, but he's at least seemed like little bit more of the guy you signed here in the last month, maybe. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if over the last month he has a 100 WRC plus, something in that range. Again, that's league average. That's not amazing. He's still not somebody that he doesn't give you power, doesn't give you like great speed or amazing defense. So it still doesn't make him a very valuable player, but he is swinging the bat better. He's coming up, and I'm at least not completely like expecting an automatic out. I at least have some like, okay, maybe he can come through here, hope now. So nice job by Solano. Rowdy pinched hit was 0 for 1. Ben Williamson, 2 for 4 with a double and a single. Nice series for Ben Williamson. And quietly, I think, had a pretty decent homestand, too. Made that great catch in foul territory. The defense was on display this series. If Ben can do this, and I get empty batting average stuff, I get it. He's not walking a ton. There's not a lot of power. If he can get everybody else dialed in, he doesn't have to be amazing. He can kind of do this, and this is fine at the bottom of the order, right? He's a good enough bat that he can get you a hit with the, what is his average? 259. You know, you'd probably like that with his game to be maybe 270. I think he'd feel a little more comfortable, but he's good enough where he's not coming up and you're going, oh my gosh, there's no chance of a hit here whatsoever. It's not that, you know, sure, if they want to look to upgrade third base, I'm not against it. That's something they can do at the deadline. But if everybody else can kind of get back going, Polanco, Randy, you can have Ben down there. And with the defense, I think he will help you. Cole Young was 1 for 4 with a base hit. Left some runners on, but better contact, I thought, from Young in this series. I thought a little bit less swing and miss. And a couple of the fly balls he hit off Anderson, I mean, off the bat, they sounded good. I don't think they were hit as far as it sounded necessarily. But, you know, good to see some better contact from Cole Young. Nice win. Hopefully it starts something on to Arizona. Like I said, I'll be there Monday, Wednesday. So if you're there, and maybe I'll put out where I said I'm always kind of iffy on doing that on the internet, like putting out where you are in an exact moment of time. But let me know if you're going to be there, and maybe something, you can meet up, say hi if you even care. If you don't want to come say hi, that's totally fine too. If you just want to sit and watch a ball game. So I get it. So like I said, I'll be there Monday, Wednesday, hopefully bringing home a couple dubs. My teams usually do pretty good when I'm in attendance. I've got a pretty good track record. I don't go to a lot of games, but I seem to do pretty well. So, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll get it going. It'd be nice to win 2 in a row. That's a winning streak. So have a great night, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.